What's up, everybody? Happy belated Thanksgiving. You are now in the trenches here for Sherdog.com. It is our weekly live chat. Of course, the schedule got a little screwed up thanks to the holidays and thanks to, us having personal lives that we must attend to. But anyway, of course, I said we. So you know what that means. That means we have the man himself, Captain Credential, the incomparable Sherdog's answer to Peter Parker himself, Mr. Jason Burgos in the house. Mr. Jason Burgos, please tell the people how you're feeling today.
I'm feeling fantastic. I'm feeling happy to be here with you. I'm feeling fatter than normal. I'm feeling good. I got my adult beverage. Don't want to show any advertising, but adult beverage, feeling good, feeling fantastic. How are you? Happy Thanksgiving to all of you. Happy Thanksgiving to you, Anthony. How are you?
Well, thank you, sir. I'm feeling pretty good. I forgot my adult beverage. I got like a couple bottles on deck right there, and I just forgot to reach over for it because I was actually setting up my my little screen thing in time. So I tried to put the overlay on, and I forgot to make myself a drink.
There you go.
And I know, and I drank my last beer yesterday. I feel a little fat as well, but not as fat as I normally would since I just started training again. So I'm feeling real spry right now.
All right.
Feeling ready to rock, man. It feels good out here. So yeah, man, I'm happy that we could get this done. The holiday schedule had us kind of scrambling around, making sure we were on the same page as far as getting the times down right. Apologize to everybody on the forum, everybody on YouTube that was waiting on this. And oops. So here we are making it up to you, and hope you enjoyed your time with your families. I know I certainly did enjoy my time with my wife and some close friends. And I know little man's birthday today, correct?
Yep. The son in training, his birthday today, turned 8. We did a little breakfast at IHOP. Big fan of IHOP, so we had a little bit of that. Went to try to go see Wreck-It Ralph. My God, like no seats available. That's the only bad thing about like these new movie theaters where they have the nice cushioned seats that you could pick your seat. That's perfect, but when it's a popular movie, you screw. Because who wants to sit in front of the actual screen? So couldn't see that. Couldn't see the Grinch. So we just went play some video games. Came back now, chill out. But he's actually going to go to like a thing called Billy B's. It was like a big kids amusement park kind of thing. You just run him out, act crazy with no shoes on. So he's going to have a pretty good birthday. So I'm pretty excited for that.
Yeah. So the wife and I are planning on seeing Creed 2 when this is all over with. So I'm going to put on one of my finest in Rocky t-shirts.
Oh.
And we're going to go check this out. That is, if we don't run into the same problem you did and can't find a ticket. And that's a strong possibility here in, on Black Friday in Los Angeles. So that is what it is. But we do have a fair amount of mixed martial arts to talk about. So why don't we go ahead and get started? Because obviously right now the MMA world, or at least some people in the MMA world, are fixated on Chuck versus Tito, Chuck Liddell and Tito Ortiz reigniting a decades-old beef to finally have that trilogy fight that we didn't get at UFC 115. So here we go under the Golden Boy MMA banner. I really don't know what to say about this.
Yeah,
this is odd in several different ways. So first of all, my initial impressions, because I was at the pre-fight press conference the other day. I did not go to the ceremonial or the official weigh-ins this morning. Just nope, sorry. Just
that turkey hangover got you,
bro. I'm telling you. So I had this truffle mac and cheese that my wife makes, ridiculous. Had some ham, ridiculous. Had some turkey. Normally I don't like turkey, but she does a very good job with turkey. So I had a lot of that. Had some pie and ice cream and beer and whiskey. And I wasn't feeling it this morning, bro. Was not feeling it. And so be it. Like apparently nothing happened. And so that's good. I didn't actually miss out on anything. But at the press conference, I think it was the perfect symbol of how strange this whole event is. So you had on the stage, you had some guys who are, whether we have heard much about them or not, are some actually legit mixed martial artists. We had Tom Lawler, who is a longtime UFC vet who just got released under controversial circumstances. He was up there fighting in the co-main event. We had Gleison Tibau sitting on the podium as well. Like it was some notable names. Of course, with Chuck and Tito, they bring a certain level of prestige because of what their names mean to mixed martial arts. But as far as what this event means, I really can't tell you. One thing for sure I can say is that it looks a lot like it did when they first fought. Now, granted, their physical circumstances are much different than they were back at UFC 66 and, in 115 when they were going to have that third fight. But mentally, they seem to still be in the exact same places. Tito is still very vocal about his dislike. He still has his Titoisms. He's got his phrases that seem to get us all chuckling. And then Chuck Liddell is cool as a cucumber. Like, he's totally relaxed. It's really strange. Like, I don't even know what to make of this. Oscar De La Hoya looks like a fish out of water trying to promote mixed martial arts. Yeah. So tell me, what have you heard about the pre-fight presser? And I will confirm or deny whatever you've heard.
Well, actually, I want you to talk about your article that you have on Sherdog today or yesterday when you got to talk to Tito's former manager and who's now Chuck's manager and all that kind of crazy. That was a great piece. And like, how did that happen? Like, how did you, like, he was just walking by, you found him like, hey, can I talk to you? Like, how'd that all work out?
So the way this started off, after the press conference broke, Chuck, Tito, and the coaches were just kind of milling around. Well, Chuck and Tito were there to give one-on-one interviews with everybody. So it was just like media day for the UFC. Yeah. Everybody lines up and waits for their turn to talk to said fighter.
Was it as busy as a UFC or not as much though?
Not even remotely close. So one thing for this press conference was closed to the public. So that definitely added a level of deadness to the room.
Okay.
Then you couple that with the fact that it was actually in the Forum, which isn't the biggest venue for mixed martial arts, right. But it is a big venue to have 12 people there sitting in front of a stage. So it felt really dead and hollow in the air. But once it got started, the guys were able to jaw jack with each other back and forth. It felt kind of like times old. But here was the part that things start going sideways. So Tito starts implying that he has spies in Chuck Liddell's camp. This is same sort of allegations he made leading up to the Stephan Bonner fight. So Chuck is laughing, like he's just hysterically laughing about this. They go back and forth. Antonio McKee is laughing. One person that really wasn't laughing was Tito's former manager, who is now Chuck's former manager. So it was. And I want to look at something on my phone and make sure that I get a detail or two right here. But yeah, so Dave Thomas, who was their manager, who's now Chuck's manager, he wasn't laughing. He was pretty much stone-faced during this whole thing. So the press conference ends. They say what they had to say, blah, 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 et cetera, et cetera. Nothing too spectacular about that other than a few funny one-liners between the two. So when they break, and you go to the separate people that you want to speak to. First, I get in line to talk to Chuck Liddell. That was an interesting experience. Antonio McKee made a very funny joke ahead of time that kind of broke the ice, no pun intended, and allowed for us to have some conversation. And I'll get to that joke a little later on. But then I go to talk to Tito, and Tito was kind of his regular self. He's really wound up. He almost seems anxious. And he's even got his fist clenched as he's talking to everybody. So when I get up to him, I stick my hand out to shake his hand and say, "Hey, I'm Anthony Walker from Sherdog. Nice to meet you. Let me appreciate you giving me a minute of your time." And he doesn't say anything to me. He's just giving me the death stare.
What?
Yeah, like
Tito.
Yes, Tito. Like he's giving me the death stare,
Weird. And
I'm thinking like, "Oh my God, am I about to get killed here?" I'm thinking,
is this sprawl? He's gonna shoot the double. Like, wait.
Yeah, I'm thinking, is this Cody Garbrandt renewed? I don't know what's going on. Is this another fighter that hates me? But I'm thinking, like, man, I ain't really said nothing about him. I don't know what's going on. But then I realized that look is not directed at me. I just happen to be standing there. And then I realized Dave Thomas is on the other side of me, and he's saying a bunch of junk to Tito. And he's saying, F you, Tito, and you liar, and he's calling him out a name. He's cursing at him and stuff. And Tito just clenches his fist even tighter, and he's just like, fuck you too. And he's saying all this stuff right back to him. And it's just just dead silent. Everybody just kind of stops and looks, and then it breaks up, and that's that. So then I interviewed Tito, like nothing went on.
You know what is funny about this? This shows that you did not grow up in Pleasantville, that you're talking to somebody and someone's yelling at someone and you didn't even notice they were yelling at that person. You were still engaged in your conversation and someone was just yelling, oh, that's to us.
Well, you know, it wasn't really yelling. It was just very stern talking, but Dave didn't raise his voice really. He just said it loud enough to be heard, but that was it. I mean, at first it sounded like it was in the background to me. Yeah. Then as he kind of walked up closer, then I could hear more, more clearly. So it breaks up. I interview Tito. Everything is okay. I even managed to get him to laugh a couple of times. So I'm like, all right, well, I guess that's settled. I guess I'm not going to die here. and and then afterward, I see Dave and I, pull him aside, ask him a couple questions, and he kind of gave me some more backstory as to what happened there and why they had their friction during that press conference. And, he didn't like the fact that Tito was implying that he was a spy. And he's saying that's damaging his relationships with his current clients and taking money off the table, whatnot. And then he goes into their personal beef with each other over a failed business relationship. And it turned into something interesting. So, check it out on Sherdog.com, just the summary of what happened from Dave Thomas's perspective. And that was pretty much it. So that was pretty cool to witness such a thing and some come so close to death as I defy danger in this very, very dangerous game of mixed martial arts journalism. So yeah, that was that. But man, that press conference was strange to say the least. Everything that I'm hearing on Twitter about the weigh-ins is even stranger. I haven't got a chance to look at the official results, but I heard a lot of weights that weren't exactly the weights of, real recognized weight classes. Yeah. So I'm assuming there's going to be a lot of catch weights going on early in the car. Yeah, it'll be catch weight titles and money weight fights going on. But so be it. I mean, I'll be in the building tomorrow. We'll see how it turns out. And I think we do have a question or two related to it. So
before you get the question, I got a question for you.
What's up, man?
What do you think about this? In that they're doing the usual stuff that we're used to the UFC doing, and like considering, they have to know, they can't really believe this is going to be a huge sell. Like this is going to get 500,000 buys, 1 million buys, and considering that Tito's act is kind of stale. I mean, I don't know if anyone needs to see it anymore. And Liddell isn't a great talker anyway. Would it have been better for them to maybe forego and save a little money and forego the usual practices of a press conference with the media in a big building that looks weird because it's so empty? Maybe they would have been. Do you think they would have been better off maybe giving websites like you and some of us like exclusive conversations like via phone and get those one-on-one conversations? I guess the only way to know would be to poll fans, but does that press conference and does these public wins really make people want to buy it more? I don't know. At this point we already know Tito and Chuck. We already know. I mean, look, the press conference wasn't received well because Oscar didn't do good. I'm hoping that Chuck Liddell's sparring and open workout was a fall and thing, and it was a trick. He's going to come out firing guns because that didn't make people say, man, I want to see him fight. They would have probably been better off foregoing that, letting the reputation of these fighters who have been, especially Chuck, been away. Maybe people remember that old guy. Do you think they might have been better off not doing that stuff and just going kind of straight to a fight and avoiding these honest missteps they've now created themselves and probably even hurt the buys even more?
You know what? I think they would have been better off if they took that less is more approach in some perspective. But at the same time, you do need to promote. But I think the main problem is not that they're poorly promoting in the sense that the press conference was a failure or renting out a bigger venue and whatnot for that. I think the failure is that this is following the boxing model. Yeah. That's really the problem. If you want to see a painfully terrible event, if you want to see something so boring and so pathetic that you just want to rip your eyeballs out, go to a boxing press conference. They make no real discernible sense as far as entertainment value goes. And that's one thing the UFC has always gotten right. Yeah. So a lot of times, these boxing press conferences are closed to the public. So that takes a level of fanfare and just kind of energy in the building out. If you don't have the fans that are just really, really excited about it, they don't take questions typically either, which is like, why have a press conference if the press can't ask questions and can't dig deeper with certain things? I mean, granted, they did provide the fighters for one-on-ones later on, but you still want some of that footage yourself. You still want some of that footage to spread out for yourself. And the UFC does a very good job of using some of these moments in press conferences to build fights in the future.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one thing that they do very well. And then you have this strange practice at these boxing press conferences where all these people that you don't really care about are talking about things that you don't really care about before you get to talk to the people that you actually care about.
Right.
So when you have, and no disrespect to the commission, but when you have a commission official go up there and talk about how hard they work to put this together, nobody cares. Nobody cares. Nobody wants to hear that. We don't care that Takati sponsored this. I don't care. So damn sure the public doesn't care. So you take away the way the UFC does it is just right. You put the exciting elements together. You let these guys interact with one another instead of just having some random person come up to the podium, say a few words, and even like Tom Lawler, who spent his time since his USADA suspension engaging in pro wrestling, and he's done pretty well in that field and generated a new fan base off of it. He goes up there to do essentially a pro wrestling promo, and it comes off really flat because he's just standing in front of a podium. His opponent, and excuse me if I'm pronouncing this wrong. I want to say his name is Darren Ware. I believe he comes up there, or Darren Wynn. Sorry. Darren Wynn goes up to the podium to respond to it, and it's like he's saying some stuff that makes sense to say in response, but it just falls flat with these guys not exactly interacting with one another. The most exciting part of that press conference was Tito and Chuck going back and forth with one another, the interaction, as opposed to just one person, on their soapbox, just thinking, whatever random entity or bank gave them a loan to do. I don't care about that. That shit is trash, man. That shit is ultra trash, and that's what it was. So I guess I guess that's a good enough segue to get into that first question for today. The Golden Boy MMA presser was hilarious just to watch. How was it live? Did anything else happen that we couldn't see? What's up with De La Hoya? So what we couldn't see, obviously, was my little brush with death between Tito Ortiz and Dave Thomas. So that was that. And you can, once again, check out Sherdog.com for the article that resulted from that situation. Aside from that, I mean, it was a lot of awkward moments as far as checking the sound. They didn't, they provided lunch for the media, which was nice, but they didn't exactly tell us where it was or tell us where the press conference was. So we just kind of go in the building.
So it's like a scavenger hunt. That's fun.
Yeah, it was a scavenger hunt. So that was that. I mean, nothing that a real fan would really care about. Just some, little gripes or just funny situations. Let's see, what else was that question? What's up with De La Hoya? He doesn't know mixed martial arts. It's that simple. He doesn't know MMA. And I mean, one thing, I quoted this on Twitter, and this is almost a direct quote, so forgive me if I got a word or two wrong, but he said, "We have an excellent undercard. I forget all their names, though."
Oh, yeah, I saw you put that. Yeah, insane. Isn't he not well versed in this enough to know, damn, that's going to come off real bad. We have a great undercard, guys. I think you'll love it. That's all you say. Why would you say I forget the names? Holy shit, you new here?
Yeah, that's really what it seemed like. It seemed like this was a guy who just stepped up there and just was like, "Oh, I got to say something." And he just stuttered through it, and he found something to say, no matter how nonsensical it was.
How do you just not have like the card and on a paper? You just read it. Okay, we've got Glaze and T-Bob, or even on that level. Holy jeez.
Exactly my thoughts, because about 3 or 4 rows in front of me were people that worked for Golden Boy, and they had sheets of paper that had the bout order on it. So like,
Jesus.
Yeah, so like one of y'all could just hand him, like he couldn't get one of those sheets of paper. I was just really. I don't know, man. I didn't know what to say. I was like, what the hell is going on?
I'm sure because probably there wasn't a unified smack in the air from everybody face palming. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, it was I don't know what to say about it, man. It was terrible. That press conference was terrible. As simple as that. Yeah, I appreciate, the slices of pineapple and the little sandwiches.
But other than memorable thing, the pineapple.
Yeah, pineapple slices. That was about it, man. And I dropped one of them on the floor, man. I was really upset because first of all, I got to call out Casey from MMA Fighting, because Casey took like all the pineapple slices.
Oh, wow.
I was right in front of him, and he took like all of them and left me like 3 of them. And I grabbed the last 3, and then I dropped one of them, and I was upset. So I'm gonna holler at you about that, Casey. I'm gonna holler at you about that. so that was that. But yeah, man, De La Hoya, he seemed out of sorts. He didn't know what he was talking about. He rambled on, said a lot of things that made absolutely no sense, and it showed a clear disconnection from mixed martial arts. I think if Golden Boy had bothered to get people involved in the MMA world, involved in this promotion, it would have came across so much better. Even if you had a fight that nobody really asked for, headlining the card, because at least you still have their name value.
Yep.
You have their rivalry to spark little moments like the confrontation I was involved in, or like the jaw jacking back and forth press conference. You have those moments. You still have that. So that will pass over a lot of the clear problems with this matchup. But if you had a stronger undercard, or at least you had somebody who knew how to communicate the strength of the undercard, this would come across so much better.
Yep.
I think it's a bigger deal that Tom Lawler is a part of this. Tom Lawler was a good, entertaining fighter in the UFC, who's now made a pro wrestling career, left the organization under controversy, and you're not really hearing his name. Oh, and by the way, he's paired up with an undefeated prospect coming out of AKA that Daniel Cormier is very high on.
Yep.
So you don't have someone that can clearly communicate the importance of that. You've got one of the most active fighters, or winningest fighters in UFC history, in Gleison Tebow on this card, and you don't have anybody up there that can communicate that might be of some note, and then he's also fighting a winner of the Ultimate Fighter. So we're not. It's like they're not using what's already in front of them. There are enough people displaced between all of the MMA promotions that were swallowed up by the UFC, from Strikeforce to WEC to WFA. There are enough people that worked in these organizations that know the sport of mixed martial arts well enough to where you could have incorporated them in the fold. And if they're already in the fold, you could have given them a better role to showcase that they know MMA. And I think that was a sorely missed opportunity. And the way this is looking, I'll be very surprised if there's a Golden Boy MMA 2. Very surprised.
It shows you the big difference between mixed martial arts and boxing, and why mixed martial arts connects better with a younger audience. Boxing is a much older audience, because their marketing is fantastic. The UFC's ability, and there's even complaints about the UFC, which shows you a lot, but the fact that the video packages they put together during an event or on commercials, their advertisements on websites, the YouTube, the embedded thing, a very simple 15-minute video which gets millions of views every time for every event. Like, their marketing is fantastic, so they know how to sell a fight. And there's even problems with that. Boxing, you see, like Golden Boy, the best, when most people wonder about Golden Boy or any of these major boxing organizations, the things that sell them, it's often the stuff like the HBO, behind the scenes kind of thing, where they follow the fighter up, like the 6-part series, and Showtime does it now too. That's not those promotions. Those are those networks. So honestly, those promotions aren't that great at marketing. They get these fighters together. They can find the talent, negotiate a contract, and maybe bring 2 networks together. But in terms of marketing themselves, they're not good, as we're seeing now, because there is no Showtime, there is no HBO, there is no major network behind this to really put those video packages and add that marketing push that's really exciting about the UFC, or even Bellator's good at now. One can do it, PFL can do it, and that's what's really hurting them. We're really seeing Golden Boy is not as good as we think. It's that Golden Boy is smart enough to partner up with the HBOs and the zones and all these kinds of stuff, and it's completely hurting them. And major props to the UFC, and that's why MMA has gotten so big in like 15 years and tied and evened up like the fan base almost of boxing in a quarter, not even a quarter, like a seventh of the time. And props to MMA, they know how to market. They know how to put even Cage Warriors, a King of Cage can put together a better video package than what Golden Boys do it for two legends fighting.
Yeah, I mean that commercial that they put out was just so ultra trash. That was terrible. I mean that was like some of the worst that the UFC had to offer in its ultimate bro phase.
Yeah.
You know, and it really seemed crazy outdated. I mean, even the the clips that they got, and I don't know if they filmed this separately just for this commercial or if they took clips from previous media things between Chuck and Tito, but just those little clips, I'm going to destroy them. It looked really trash. It looked terrible. It was terribly put together. And I think if this succeeds, and that's a big if, and granted, the definition of success is going to be pretty broad here. But if this succeeds, this will be in spite of how Golden Boy is moving and not because of how they're moving. It's very clear as day to me. What's Tito talking about? 200,000 buys is kind of where he expects the floor to be on this one.
No way.
I that ain't it, Chief.
Yep,
that ain't it. I'm not
be on the high side for me.
I agree. And I think I'm trying to remember who put this one out, who tweeted this out, but they saying that, in fact, maybe I saw from you retweeting it.
Yeah, the one about no promotion outside of UFC has done more than a certain amount.
Yeah, no more than 200,000.
Yeah, and that was like WEC or something.
Yeah, and they did 175, and that was considered a huge success.
Yeah.
So I think more realistically, I could see perhaps 100,000, perhaps.
I wouldn't. Do you remember happen to recall what the Bellator, their first and second?
I think they did around 100,000.
100. Did they break 100?
I think they broke about 100. I think that, but there were also so many conflicting reports. I do remember hearing from different outlets and then different figures involved with the promotion that the numbers were kind of all over the place. But I thought it was somewhere around 100,000 that those ended up settling on, at least one of them.
And those had relevant guys at the moment. Like Rampage, I think, was a big part of the first one. The next one
was Eddie Alvarez and Chandler too, I think. Was that a pay-per-view?
I don't know. I feel like there was one in the Bjorn era and then one in like Eddie Alvarez Chandler might have been on that same Rampage one. And then there was one in the Coker era, which I think was that was a Madison Square Garden one, I believe.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
With Chael and was it Chael and Vanderlei?
Yeah, Chael and Vanderlei. Chandler and Will Brooks was on the first one.
So I mean, and those had top to bottom some of the best Bellator could offer, and that still didn't break it. Like, and I get it. Some fans are nostalgic about certain fighters, and Chuck and Tito are kind of those guys that they are. But you're asking a lot in an era where pay-per-views are. That's another thing that killed them too. They should have went with like a $29.99 kind of discounted rate. I think that would have drew more in because at least people would have been like, it's not as good as the UFC, but damn, it's way cheaper. So maybe I'd be willing to see these two fighters that I've liked for a long time, maybe. But to have, I'm guessing it's near like the $49, $59 value. Like
they started dropping the price. Actually, I think originally it was going to be $50, and then they dropped it to $40. And I know if you order it, you pre-order it within like a 2 or 3 hour window sometime today, you can get it for $20.
Oh yeah, they better. That's smart. They need to do that. And even if you don't make the money you want, you can sell. Oh shit, we got 200,000 or 250,000 buys because whatever Tito's saying, nobody cares. In the general idea of the media, if they get 250, we're going. That's pretty good. That's better than I expected, and that's what you want to do. You want to have the optics of it, like 250. That's pretty good for two well past their prime guys and a mixed match roster of a main card and prelim. So that would be worth it. Maybe you don't make the money, but you show, look, we have value here, and you set up for next time because otherwise it's going to be a lose-lose proposition for them.
Yeah, totally agree with that. And also you got to factor in that we are talking about Golden Boy Promotions, and while the MMA side is clearly not up to par, they still have one of the best boxers actively on their roster in Canelo Alvarez. And that man's presence attracts a lot of money. You have money to work with. You have the money to work with. So it's okay to take a loss on the first event, maybe the first two, while you're building up a name for yourself. And at the very least, they could attract some of these guys that are floating between promotions. You know, how much of a coup would it have been, especially considering De La Hoya and Dana White's very, very contentious relationship, if you were to be able to snatch up an Eddie Alvarez before one championship could get him. You know, a guy who has proven himself successful outside of the UFC and created one of the biggest drawing powers without the help of Zuffa. So if you were able to get a guy like that, and this is not going to be an isolated thing. These guys who are very respected in the UFC and very well known and loved throughout the public, they will become available. You know, as far as we know, Sage Northcutt is still a free agent. So you can attract some of these names, but you got to have some sort of you know, pathway to success. And having a poor job promoting the event, having a figurehead who literally knows nothing about the sport, or at least of the event that he's trying to put on, is not going to help things at all. You know, having somebody who you consider a friend take all the pineapple slices before you is not going to help.
Nope, not going to help.
Not going to help. Not going to help. All right, so let's see what else we got here. All right, so this one is going to go back to last weekend's event in Buenos Aires. Do you believe Johnny Walker can make an impact on the light heavyweight division? That question was asked by Jay Padilla 295.
Too early to tell. Who did he beat again?
He beat Khalil Roundtree.
Yeah, with the elbow. Too early to tell. I mean, he's got a lot of personality and stuff like that, and that's great. Interesting story. I was reading about, I forget what website talking about that he was using the flag of England, even though he's Brazilian, because he was talking about that's the country that really opened up its doors, the gyms that were very helpful for his career. He'll wear the flag of any country that's willing to do that, which is pretty interesting. But way too early to tell. This is one guy, his debut. You know, Roundtree's a nice, solid fighter, but I couldn't say right now. Too early.
Yeah, you know what? I'm kind of with you on that, but I think the X factor is that this is 205. At light heavyweight, it's so wide open. It doesn't take much to stand out because the field is that thin. So you look at his last two fights, and granted, he was fighting a lot of nobodies leading up to his rise to prominence. But when he first made his way on the Contender Series, he fought Henrique da Silva, who was a UFC vet. And has put some good fights together during his original run in the UFC. So he was able to beat him, and then he goes on to knock out Khalil Roundtree in his UFC debut. You see competition rising and him rising to the occasion, and that's always a really good sign. That's a very good sign. I mean, it was just several months ago Khalil Roundtree knocked Gokhan Saki in the next week, and people were singing his praises, and now he was on the receiving end of a devastating knockout by a newcomer. You got to take that newcomer kind of seriously. I just don't want him to kind of be in the situation that I think Anthony Smith is going to find himself in, to where the field is so thin that it pushes you to the top too fast. I prefer contenders to rise up who have real good shots of beating the current champion. And between the guys that we've seen rise up at 205, I'm not sure if we're seeing that yet, but we are seeing them early in their development. Smith probably being the exception considering his age. So when you have Dominic Reyes and Johnny Walker, with the right development, these guys can make waves. Just don't go betting the farm on Johnny Walker just yet. All right, that'll be my take on that matter. All right, so question from Twitter. Is Darren Elkins too tough for his own good?
I mean, wrestlers just seem like they're always real tough anyway. No disrespect to any other martial arts, but I mean, that's part of. There's just certain fighters that aren't overly gifted in skills. Not everybody can be a John Jones or a Adesanya or George St. Pierre or some of these really gifted technically astute fighters like an Ortega or Hollow. Not everybody can be that. Some guys are Diego Sanchez, that they have a gift of cardio. They're good, strong, solid wrestlers, and they're just double fucking tough. And that's just what gets them to a certain level. I mean, there's a lot of guys that are just like that. They're just double tough, and it gets them to a high level. And in the end, it's about making money. He's just a guy. He's a good, solid wrestler, and he's double tough. And we've all seen it. You never really know in MMA. You always had there. It's a sport that you always have a chance. We were talking about, I think it was last week, we were talking about knockouts and the Scott Smith one. I think it was Pete Sell. The guy looked hurt and he comes into the body, gets a knockout, or Rich Franklin breaks an arm and still knocks out this guy. And we've seen stuff where guys come in with injuries. So no, I mean it's part of what's he gonna do? He's hurt and gives up? No, he if he has one chance and he can get a shot and land it and make a lot of money and set them up for big things. No one's too tough for their own good. That's what referees and coaches are there for. If they're going to put themselves in danger, the referee needs to stop it or the coach needs to throw in the towel. But for a fighter trying to make their money, they should be as tough as they want to be to try to get that victory.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with you on that. I mean, the problem that we face a lot of times with the officiating, with the cornering, is that it's relying it's making the fighter have to choose whether to continue or not.
Yeah, like just consciousness or no consciousness.
Right. And it's just not a fair it's not a fair thing to do, because if you are the type of person to step into a cage with another trained killer half naked and try to beat each other half to death, you don't think like a normal person. That's not your mind isn't wired like your accountant or your plumber.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
This is a different sort of animal you're dealing with. So Darren Elkins, yeah, he's too tough for his own good as far as, our scale, but we're not professional cage fighters.
Yep.
He should have proper refereeing, proper coaching to save him from himself. But I think also you're right. Darren Elkins is a guy who isn't necessarily the most skilled guy in the world. Mm-hmm. But he's pushed pretty damn far in his career. He's done an amazing job of what he's got. He went on a very impressive streak. He stopped Mirsad Bektik's rise. He's done some really impressive things at the highest levels, and we can't actually look down on that at all. We can't criticize him for doing anything other than being himself. So I'm in full support of everything Darren Elkins does. It's incredibly entertaining. I hate his tattoo, but I love the way he fights.
And he did some good things in the fight. It's not like he was just absolutely blasted. He was competitive, and then Lamas, got to him. He beat him. I mean, that's like saying, is Frankie Edgar versus Gray Merritt? Was he too tough for his own good? I mean, look what happened in that fight. You have a moment where you just are getting out, just destroyed, and you can come back and win legendary fights. So yeah, never. If it comes to a fight, never too tough for their own good.
Yeah, I definitely like that point too. He wasn't getting slaughtered that entire fight. That fight was very competitive in a lot of spots. It's just that when it ended, oh man, it ended ugly. And that's sort of the thing that happens in MMA. Fights can end very ugly in a flash. So there's that. All right, let's check out the next question here. This is one from the forum. Can Ponzinibbio make a move at welterweight, or high-level wrestlers like Woodley, Colby, and Usman shut him down? Who would you have Ponzi fight next?
That's the question for everybody, and I think he totally can. I mean, I'm disappointed that fight with him and Usman didn't happen because it was supposed, I think, last year or maybe 2016. It was relatively recently, and they got canceled. Yeah, I mean, that's a test for everybody. If you're not already a great wrestler, fighting the great wrestlers is always the litmus test if you're a lead or not. And those are all great options. Let's see. I mean, he's at a great camp in AKA, so he's going against, he may have wrestled with guys like Colby Covington until Colby Covington pissed off every Brazilian on the planet. So it may be, we'll see. I want to see it. It's time. He's main evented. He's got some good wins. Usman and him just seem like the natural fight because I don't think they're going to give Usman a title shot yet. Both of them, it's unclear if they are for sure number contenders. So maybe this is like a nice eliminator to really decide who's the best guy after Colby Covington and Woodley, who look like they're going to being set up to fight at 233. Am I right? In January, is that the one you might be going to?
Yeah, that's it hasn't been official, but I've been seeing that's rumored for 233.
Yeah, so, that's coming up. So I feel like I'm forgetting somebody at welterweight. Oh yeah, so Askren in the wing. So yeah, Usman Ponzinibbio. That's the fight that needs to happen. That's a fun fight. Both Florida, the one guy's in AK, one guy's in Hard Knocks. Let's make that fight happen. Two really young up and coming guys. Got to do it.
Yeah, I think that'll be a good one to set them apart from the rest of the division and make it very clear who deserves the next title shot. I think you keep Colby Covington totally out of that mix. I think he's earned his title shot. And then also promotionally, him versus Woodley would probably do a lot better than Ponzinibbio versus Woodley or pretty much any other combination that you have there. The winner of Robbie and Ben Askren makes some sense as well. But Usman is probably the one that I would get behind the most, because I think they both have one really quality win in their tenures here of recent times. So Usman having that win over Damian Maia, and Ponzinibbio getting his win over Neil Magny. Other than that, you have a lot of guys who don't quite qualify as title shot worthy wins. Like Mike Perry. I don't think a win over Mike Perry would justify a title shot.
I got two. What do you think of these two? One, you just mentioned Maia. I don't think Maya's got a dance partner anytime soon. It's always a good thing. If you're bringing up a guy for a title shot, make him fight someone that's already fought for the title. So Maya will be interesting, and that's a great grappler. And what about the idea of Rafael Dos Anjos? Like, he's not going to get a shot. He lost to Colby Covington. He's kind of come back to the pack. Those would be another guy who can grapple if need be, but also a very good striker. He's probably more well-rounded than Ponzinibbio, so that'd be a very fun and interesting, sellable fight too.
That would be a good one. Till wouldn't be a bad matchup either.
Yes.
I mean, for that matter, Wonder Boy would be a good matchup as well. So there are a plethora of options. What gives me pause about bringing Damian Maia into that fold against Ponzinibbio, Maia has a great way of killing off contenders.
Yes.
He is fantastic at it. And after what happened at UFC 214, they do not want Damian Maia, working his way back to a title shot against Tyron Woodley. Like, that is not a fight that anybody's really asking for. Even if you put him up against Colby Covington again, say Covington wins against Woodley. Do we really want to see Colby versus Maia again? I don't think that those are fights that actually do it for anybody. Maybe with Colby versus Damian Maia, you can kind of play up the anti-Brazilian angle or something like that. But other than that, you're relying strictly on a gimmick and not on competitive merit and people who actually deserve these title shots. So I think it might be better. Maybe a Dos Anjos works better. Because we haven't seen Dos Anjos versus Woodley, and stylistically, that could be an interesting fight. Maybe that works better, but I think the Usman one is the way to go because they both don't have, up until recently, until their last couple of wins, have those signature fights that say, I deserve a title.
Yes.
Oh man, I'm trying to hold that sneeze. I was hoping the camera would go on you so I could just hold that in and nobody would see it. But whatever. All right, so let's see. Next question from Toronto Dump.
Okay.
All right. Considering Mario Yamasaki's latest quote regarding fans' thirst for blood and its relation to his late stoppages, is it fair to say that he should be immediately relieved of his duties as an MMA referee? And for those who are unaware, the quote from Yamasaki reads as this, quote, "The fans want to see blood. The commission wants to see safety. So how do you choose to be between that? That's the hardest part."
Boo-hoo, Yamasaki, boo-hoo. Like, I mean, what fans are doing should not be affecting, or you should not even be a thought about it. You're just doing your job and you're doing what the commission has told you. So, and it's just, considering his history, like, I really think referees, for the most part, should not even be on social media. I mean, because if they have the opportunity of fans bringing up that stuff, like, you've made mistakes and it's damaged fighters and who knows, it damaged your career, you should just stay away from social media, honestly. So him saying anything about fans, considering it's just like, because they're going to bring up, you've put people in danger and you're not paying attention either way. So I don't know. Just follow what you're supposed to do, Mario. Who cares about what the fans think anyway?
Yeah, I mean, him saying stuff like this, man, get him up out of there.
Yeah.
Just get him up out of there. It just, no. Like, as a referee, these are thoughts that should be far from your mind. You know, and I don't want to sit up here and just railroad Mario Yamasaki. He is a very well respected martial artist. He's done a lot for martial arts in my hometown, and so all credits due to him for that. But really, dude, like, you can't rely on these, like, some of the stupidity that you hear from the stands, and you're gonna rely on that bunch to dictate how you do your job. No, like, the last thing that needs to be on your mind is what some knucklehead sitting up in the nosebleeds with about 3 liters of Bud Light in his soul has to say about it. Like, tune all that out. You need to be worried about the fighters. You need to be worried about their safety. The rules that the commission tell you are the rules that you follow, and nothing else matters. The promoter doesn't matter. The fighter himself, no matter your relationship with them, it doesn't matter. None of that matters. Just do what you're told as a referee and follow what's best as far as safety protocols for their well-being, not your standing on social media. Because, quite frankly, that to me speaks of a lot of vanity coming into play, where you shouldn't have an ego. You shouldn't be that guy that wants to be liked as the referee. You know, there is no balancing game as a referee. There's only one game you play. That is, the fighters are safe as they possibly can be, while beating each other in the head. That's it.
Like, you're not a part of the show. You're not here to help entertain. You just do your job.
Exactly. That when the referee does his job, we don't know you're there. That's it. That's it. We're not supposed to know you're there. You're supposed to be just a third man, just in case shit goes wrong. That's what you're there for. You know, you're there to keep things under some relative level of control. And that relative level of control goes completely out of the window when you are relying on the opinions of fans who have no control. So let's not, like, no. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Mario Yamasaki. Get all the way the fuck up out of there. Get all the way the fuck up out of there. You don't belong in a cage anymore. I'm sorry. I love what you've done for martial arts, especially in the DC area. I would love to train with you at one of your schools for my own benefit as a martial artist. But damn it, I don't want you reffing anything, especially if your boy's involved. No, thank you. If I were ever to take a fight, that man is no. I don't even want you in the building, bro. That night, hell no. Relying on the fans want blood. Who gives a damn what the fans want? You know, when you're the ref. Like, I mean, man, fuck out of here with that, man. I'm sorry, man. I think that's just ludicrous. That's seriously one of the, that's total trash. That's one of the dumbest things I've ever heard from an official.
For real.
That goes up there with Cecil Peoples' leg kicks don't count. That goes right up there with that. Yeah, man. What? I'm sorry. The more I think about this, the angrier I'm gonna get. That is a bunch of that is bullshit, man. You want to rely on these? All right, fuck out of here with that. Let me just go. We're just gonna go to the next question. All right, Gunlock, cool name. Are we witnessing the rise of the new Wild West MMA era? Fighters are allowed to cut insane amounts of weight. Cheap shots aren't properly addressed and sometimes completely ignored. Refs talking about, quote, blood for the fans. Nice segue there. Corners don't know when or simply refuse to throw the towel. What are your thoughts?
What was the second thing? What's ignored?
Let me go back to that. Where we're at. Cheap shots aren't properly addressed and sometimes they're completely ignored. Refs talking about blood for the fans. Corners don't know when or simply refuse to throw the towel.
I mean, hasn't most of that been going on for the existence of the sport anyway? I mean, outside of the refs being more vocal on Twitter, which again, like I mentioned, is probably unnecessary. They should try to stay away from that. I mean, cheap shots being missed happens in boxing too. You know, bad weight cuts has been going on for a long time. Though I will say it seems like it's happening much more now, which is bad. And you know, it just seems like stuff that's just been going on for the longest. I think this is just the sport. It's just I think the best part of the question is the fact that it has been going on for so long, how is it not getting fixed yet? How are weight cuts still not being addressed in a way to make it safe fight? Because I got to like a debate on Twitter about this, and that, you know, at some point for the weight cut thing, you're just gonna have to take it out of the fighter's hands. You cannot rely on a fighter who is has a small window to make money. They're gonna do the weight they think they can win at and make money, even if it isn't really healthy or makes sense for them to do it. So at some point, commissions are gonna have to change. And I got to people bringing up that one, in my research for them and doing interviews, they have a hydration system where you have to be within a certain body hydration level, the weigh-ins and the day of the fight, so that you can't be cutting crazy amounts of weight and just draining your body. So, you know, that's a possibility. Things like that. But you know, it's a debate that's been going on for years. So it's more sad that there are some of these dumb things that happen, and they still haven't been better addressed in the sport that's 15 years old now, and that can be addressed. You know, that's, to me, that's the bigger problem, that it hasn't been fixed. But same old, pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, this really isn't a new phenomenon, and really, I think for the most part, I mean, the weight cutting issue aside, weight cutting is definitely something that can be addressed on a grander scale, and we have, you know, one gets a lot of credit for what they've done, but we have yet to see long-term ramifications of certain things, and you know, a lot of the jury's out on how a lot of this can break down and what solutions are going to work out best. But I think in general, you can't stomp out a lot of this stuff because it's going to be part of the sport. You know, mixed martial arts is not football. It's not hockey or basketball. It's inherently just combative and inherently chaotic and inherently crazy. You don't have normal people taking this up. You know, it's not like, you know, you talk to, you know, whatever guys you work with at your office or your day job, whatever. Those guys, yeah, I'm sure a couple of them played football. A couple of them, you know, were on the junior varsity basketball team. Like, those are common things. But to talk to the guy who's, you know, bit on his mouthpiece and just beat the hell out of somebody and taking punishment right back for years as a sparring partner in a boxing gym or at an MMA gym, that's not common. It's not nearly as common. So there's a certain level of insanity that goes into the personalities that get involved with this. So you're going to have the cheap shots. You're going to have people taking crazy chances on the weight cuts. You're going to have the mix of personalities, and it's going to look crazy. It's going to look like a circus because compared to a lot of other sports, it is, you know, and that's, you know, one of the things that comes with the territory of combat sports is that things aren't just going to be, you know, clean and pristine. It's impossible. It's not how it works. You know? All right. So let's see. We've got, I'll try to, I don't know how this is supposed to be pronounced, but phonetically it's R. Mongler. What do you feel is the genesis behind the trends of decreasing effort or lack of investment by UFC management in promoting their fighters in recent years? And what consequences would this have for their business and or the sport in general? I love that question. Don't love the name, but I love your question.
You take it first then.
Okay. All right. So let me go ahead and start this one off. What I feel is the genesis behind the trends of decreasing effort or lack of investment, I think because it's been a satisfaction with the status quo. I would believe that, top of my head, I'll say that that'll be the main cause. So we've talked about this many times in many different ways. The UFC has a very particular way that they like to promote certain people. If you fall outside of those lines of you look different, you think different, you act different, they kind of throw their hands up and don't know what to do with you. Hence the reason why the Diaz brothers received zero promotion until they caught on to the fact that they had a cult fan base. Yeah. The reason why, a guy like Tyron Woodley has been very vocal about his dissatisfaction with how he's been promoted. Same thing with Demetrius Johnson. So there are a lot of things that disqualify you from that stereotypical tattooed fighter that's angry that they put on a commercial. There are a lot of things that disqualify you from that. And while they've gotten better in certain ways because of certain fighters, Ronda Rousey being probably the most notable example, of someone who kind of broke the mold, and they were able to try to market to different demographics and therefore try to grow the fan base as opposed to just sticking to what they've done before. It's kind of what you're going to get. So they have to take chances, and they're not willing to take those chances. Now, one of the things that I think is a potential backdraw for the ESPN deal is that they're automatically getting like $10 million per event. So then you take away the incentive to really push different narratives, to really push different personalities. Maybe it gives them the freedom to say, hey, we can try different things, and maybe that will be a positive. But if they keep on the course that they've been going, I think it's just going to encourage only promoting what we know how to promote. Only putting on, if a female fighter isn't the conventional beauty standard, okay, we can't promote her. I think that's what you're going to fall into if you just give them the money up front, which ESPN is doing. They're just giving them the money up front. What do you think?
I agree with everything you said. Just to add on to, I guess if we're looking for like a genesis point of where things change, the sale, when they got sold to Endeavor and incurred all that debt, it really had an effect on. It's weird. They went away from a brand. And that was the thing about the UFC. You went and brought the pay-per-view because you knew you were getting value. You were going to get a lot of fights up and down the card compared to boxing, where it's all about the main event. And they went away from that brand selling to main event selling and selling certain fighters. And now they are, maybe because of the debt, they're much more desperate to find something that can make them money now. And whoever it has become reliable in their eyes to make them money now, they will favor. And maybe if whatever, certain fighters fit the recipe, which in a weird way, their recipe seems to be blonde hair, white guys or girls. They seem to go with those a lot. That's their recipe for money makers. And that's why they don't seem like a long-term plan. And they try to put together these quick fights right away and interim title shots and people getting rushed to the top. And I just, it's about making that money back on that debt. And I don't know if things will change, but, we see it in the numbers, and fans, I think, have purchased less, because of it. They're feeling being given the impression only these big fighters are really worth your dollar. They're the ones that you need to watch, and everybody else, it's up to you. Before it was just, oh shit, UFC pay-per-view on, man, I gotta watch that. Let's get the guys together and put that together and do it. And once that sale happened, something changed. Certainly something changed, and I don't know. I don't know if they'll go back to it. And maybe, but just it's affected the sport. But in the way, it's probably affected the sport in a better, because it's helped maybe people look for different options, and maybe Bellator and all these other things, and PFL, and I mean it's a lot of factors. But yeah, once they got sold, it changed things for them a lot, especially in promotion.
Yeah, but you know what? Where I'm going to disagree with you on, I think that that this has a bad effect to the rest of the MMA community. Now, while one championship can capitalize and pick up a few key names, or maybe PFL can sneak in and put a good event on the one time the UFC has a weekend off, things like that will happen. But overall, the UFC they carry the sport of mixed martial arts. They are the brand standard. If the UFC is doing bad, mixed martial arts itself is doing bad. And maybe that'll change in the next 10 years or so. Maybe the tides will start shifting and we'll see more of a balance between the power in these different promotions. But as of right now, if the UFC does bad, so does everyone else. Now, we talk about how, the pay-per-view sales are down and the UFC is kind of hitting a stall point, and all those criticisms are very fair. But you look at what's going on at Bellator, and those ratings are abysmal right now. They're hitting Bellator even worse. God knows what they look like for One or PFL or any other promotion. I mean, even One, despite the good headlines that they've put out in the last several months or so, I mean, according to that Bloody Elbow article, they're still operating well into debt range. So there are a lot of things that we just don't know, but we do know that the UFC kind of carries the torch of mixed martial arts. And if they're dropping that torch, the sport is in trouble. Sport's in big trouble.
With my research for One, actually, I think One's probably going to turn a profit this year. Pretty good one, like over 100 million. And supposedly they say, based on the different mediums they're broadcast on, they've reached like 25 million people for their audience. That's the crazy thing about One. That's what so fascinates me about them. Is it's sort of like there's this thing going on somewhere else in the world that we're not really privy to because it's not aired in the US, but they're really supposedly doing a lot of big things and making a lot of money. It's just all in Asia, you know, and it's just, but we forget there's more people over there than there are over here. So, in a way, I kind of hope one does do good because it will continue to instead of people saying, "Oh, do you watch UFC?" People will start saying, "Oh, you watch MMA?" You know, and it'll, as long as they get big and they start to become this big thing, even on the other side of the planet, you know, it's going to come over here eventually and be big too. And UFC, and now UFC's got the Performance Center Institute Beijing that they're going to make now too. So, you know, but yeah, I you're true on Bellator and PFL. Like, yeah, especially because they're North American based. If UFC isn't strong in this side of the world, this Western Hemisphere, yeah, it definitely affects those companies for sure.
Yeah, big time. All right, so let's see, where are we next? Oh, from the guy himself, our man, Europe. These markets do you expect will become the most important for the UFC? China with its booming economy and billions of potential viewers, or Russia with its plethora of MMA super talents and sky-high interest in MMA?
This is a way. So I broke up for a second. He's asking the value if the UFC will grow in China or Russia.
Yeah, he's saying like, which will China or Russia be the more important market for the UFC?
It's fascinating. You know what? My gut would say Russia, though I'm not sure how big Russia's MMA market is. I'm sure it's pretty good because of the alliances and the friendships Dana White has with Trump and then Trump with Putin in a way. But what's interesting, again, like going back to the stuff I've been looking up on one, and I can't wait to, unfortunately, my interview with Chatri Sityantan got pushed back. Is going to be the 27th now. I want to ask him because the way they market their style, and even during conversations with Demetrius Johnson and Eddie Alvarez, the Asian market is much more about old school martial arts, respect, honor, integrity, dignity. That's not how the UFC markets itself. You know, even Sit Young Tong and things I've read in press conferences, he talks about they promote the blood and the violence of it, and that's not what they're about. So I'm curious if the UFC and their style of promotion, unless they promote it differently over there, if it will sell to the Asian market like one does. I don't know. If one's doing well and they're making a big imprint in the footprint in the area with their style promotion. So, but Russia, I can see it working over there. You know, I can definitely see it working. But the thing is Russia does not have like the kind of population and the interest of, because it's not like a, you know, I guess if we're going to just say China, even China is still a huge population, and it's those cultures are based in so much martial arts. This is the birthplace of martial arts, those countries in China and parts of Asia. So it'll be interesting. It's interesting that they're having a performance institute now so they can bring people from the region there and then build them up and then send them to the UFC, kind of like what one has been doing with the Evolve MMA gym and developing. You know, that's the thing you want to do. Let them learn about you and then send them to your brand. So if I had to say, I'd say Russia. Now they got in, they have Nurmagomedov. You always want to get into a market with a local, a person from the region. And now one of the best fighters on the planet, there, honestly, Khabib's probably bigger than Fedor at this point now. That'll help them a lot in selling. Who's the Chinese star the UFC has, you know? Like one has a bunch of Chinese and Thai and Filipino, you know, they have stars from all these different nations they can sell. Like, for example, Bellator goes into Italy with nobody else other than Sakara, and it does well because he's Italian. You know, he's a star that sells there. They even do it with the Israel shows. So at least the UFC has the Russian names. They can go into arenas and sell well. I don't know if they have the Chinese names. I'm curious on what the numbers and what the Beijing did, but the fact that this Beijing card is on Fight Pass, I don't think it says a lot of good things about it.
So first of all, let's just say that nothing screams this event belongs in Beijing like a main event featuring a guy from Cameroon who now lives in France and a black guy from Chicago. Nothing says Beijing more than that. So let's get that out the way. Yes. But I think in the long term, I think China could be the better market. But for the short term, it's got to be Russia. And I'd say that for several reasons. I mean, here's the main reason. Besides the fact that we have a plethora of Russian talent in mixed martial arts, especially the guys from Dagestan, and the legacy of Russian fighters and guys like Karatanov and Fedor Emelianenko, guys who've left their stamp on the sport. even as far back as like Igor Vovchanchyn, like guys who've really done a lot of good things from that region of the world. The thing is, their national sport, Sambo, it's essentially mixed martial arts.
Yeah.
So these guys don't really need much tutelage. You can just throw them in. You can take a guy from Sambo and throw him into an octagon, and he's not going to look like he's out of place. You know, he's going to know essentially what he's doing. However, if you take the martial arts that are popular in China, you know, wushu being one of their national sports, wushu does not translate very well to an actual fight. So there's a certain learning curve there where you've got to, and we saw this with Tough China, the guys who came through Tough China and got into the UFC, we saw them get out wrestled. We saw them get outboxed. We saw them not being able to cut it on some of the very fundamental things that we hold as the foundations of modern mixed martial arts. Sambo is already there.
Yeah.
So the talent doesn't have to go through any sort of metamorphosis. They don't have to go through any sort of tutelage to excel in mixed martial arts. So that's where I think it's going to lie. But in the meantime, if you're developing this talent, you've got a huger group of people to choose from. You've got a bigger population. A booming economy certainly helps because they're people that might have the disposable income to purchase pay-per-views if you want to go with that model, or to simply afford to train and afford to get in the gym and become talents themselves. Or, of course, my wife with the guest appearance. So you have that. You have that potential in the future, but as of right now, it's Russia all the way. I can't see. I mean, in fact, I would say Russia's got a better foothold on the talent pool in mixed martial arts than almost any other country, the U.S. included. And
you can say Russia has a better foothold on the country of the U.S. in general and the government.
We've gone political. Yeah, so I'm waiting for the angry comments to pop up on that. You know, I got like every so often I get a couple people that want to send troll comments on Twitter. So I'm waiting for you. All right, let's move on here. Andre Orlovsky.
Okay.
The estranged cousin of former UFC heavyweight champion. He says, would UFC fighters perform better if they got paid more? I guess. Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. In my opinion, it's not necessarily that they would perform better if they were paid more, is that they would, it would attract better talent, you know, and then you could see better performances. Or, I mean, one problem, I shouldn't even say it's a problem, but one thing that we don't like, which is going to be a byproduct of guys getting paid more, is that they're going to fight less often because they just won't feel like fighting because they don't have to. Right. Maybe that time away gives them more time to improve upon skills or fine tune things, maybe, but they should be paid more. That won't necessarily mean that the performances get that much better outside of the talent pool being a better class of athlete, in my opinion.
I think I'm wondering if Andre's weird cousin, if his question comes up, because Joe Rogan on his podcast brought this up. Damn, it must have been like 5-6 months ago, where he was saying fighters, instead of getting the show and win bonus, which is a bunch of bullshit anyway, they should just get a flat rate every time, which some of the bigger names I think get anyway. And the theory being not so much they will be better in a general level, but they'd be more willing to take a risk. Because I'm sure without a doubt, there's some guys knowing I need that extra $50,000 to win. So I'm going to fight maybe a little bit more safer, a little bit more less exciting. And I think that's what his idea was. If you had fighters knowing they were going to make a certain amount of money, then they would, you know, they can maybe be more exciting. But even then, you know, you got to win if you want to really go far, so you can't be too risky. But it was a good idea. And either way, fighters should just get flat rates anyway. The show and win is a bunch of BS. Like, I told you about it. A fighter I interviewed for PFL, talked about how much money they were making in the UFC because of that show and win. And at UFC level, he wasn't bringing home more than like less than $2,000 a month, because he had to pay taxes, pay his trainers and everything because that show and win. And if he wasn't winning, he wasn't making enough. At least he was making, a set amount of both at the same time. That would help. But yeah, I agree. Fighters need to be paid more, and you're right. It probably would bring more talent. That's why everybody's going to basketball and football still from the inner city to this day, even though it could definitely go into fighting because that shit pays much more money. They can pay for their cousins and aunties and everything to get a house soon. So
yeah, I'm
going on over there. What's happening?
Oh, I don't know. My wife is microwaving something. I don't know what she's doing. But yeah, so. Yeah, I agree with you on that. I mean, definitely the show win thing is total garbage. It had its place in the early stages of the UFC, but now it really has no place in the sport, at least at the highest of levels. No place. I believe Ryan Bader spoke to that when he joined the Bellator roster, and he's saying he felt freer to strike more and just try different things because it wasn't like, okay, I can wrestle and win, and that's just the safest approach. I get double my pay. Without that mentality, yeah, you might open guys up to different things, but at the same time, winning is what's going to be most important. And if the best way to win is to out wrestle somebody and make it a boring fight, get the win, rise up in the ranks. At least if we're going off sporting integrity, that's what should earn the title shots, which equal more money. But what do I know? I'm just a clown in a Batman shirt. I don't know anything. So we're gonna go to the next question here. I'm guessing this name is a play off enema, but it says Imama. But
we still thank you for your question.
Yeah, we thank you for your question. I don't know what to make of the name. But the question is, does trash talk really pay off in the long run?
Like for what though? Like to make money or for head games? Or should we just do both?
Why not do both? That's I like where they're going with that question. Little vague, but we'll work with it.
Also, if we appreciate your question, if you could also give us pronunciation of some of your names, much better. It'd really be helpful.
Yeah. In fact, say that one more time. I didn't put the camera on you, and it seems more dramatic when the camera's on you.
Yeah. If you can give us pronunciations for those names, people, we want to get your names right, and we want to get your questions. We love your questions. We love you. Just we don't want to butcher your names, please. Thank you.
Look at that. PSA from Mr. Burgos himself. So as far as trash talk, does it really pay off? Look at the examples of trash talking. It varies. So you have the obvious. You have a Conor McGregor or a Chael Sonnen. Trash talk certainly has paid off in the long run for both of those guys. They are sitting on mountains of money and have a whole host of career opportunities available to them because they've talked trash. Chael Sonnen in particular, his trash talk has caused him to fall upwards so many times that it is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
He's trash talked his way into every gig since the UFC, trash talked his way into multiple title shots. It's fantastic what he's done. He's making, I'm sure, some YouTube money from trash talking on his YouTube channel.
He's on ESPN. He does a show with Ari Helwani from trash talking.
Yeah, exactly. So he also, and you look at Conor McGregor, who has also become I tried to time it. Hey! So I tried to time it so she wouldn't be there. She didn't take the cue when I was like, come back here. She missed the cue.
Get side. Is she coming?
yeah, she didn't know. So anyway, so there's my wife again. But so the trash talk thing for Conor McGregor has clearly worked. If he was not an expert trash talker, he wouldn't have made $100 million to get outboxed by Floyd Mayweather. He wouldn't have had his guest role in that Call of Duty game. He wouldn't have done all the things that have made his life pretty damn nice. That would be totally off the table. But then you look at even look at somebody who I think is really bad at trash talking, but it's done pretty well for them. Colby Covington is a guy who flew under the radar. Nobody was paying attention to who he was, and he was still winning. But he starts talking some trash. However cringeworthy a lot of that trash talk is, it still got him with that interim belt. it still has him in line for a title shot at the legitimate belt. So this guy could be headlining a UFC pay-per-view based on the fact that he can trash talk. I don't think that's losing. You know, there have been guys who trash talk and got worked because of it. The first thing that pops to mind is Jake Ellenberger's taunts to Wonder Boy about how karate doesn't work, and then he gets heel kicked upside his head and gets finished. Or maybe Pee Wee Herman talking about the jiu-jitsu didn't work on him, and next thing you know, the Big Nog is tapping him out. So there's that, but he still got paid to fight in the UFC. And it's better than a lot of us will ever do.
Yeah, I mean, trash talking. It's like its own art in a way. It's not a martial art, but it can, like you nailed it. It can work for some, and it can not work for others. I mean, Conor McGregor did a lot of trash talk with Khabib, and he just got manhandled because of it. And Khabib lost his fucking mind. Michael Bisping with Dan Henderson, that season of the Ultimate Fighter, and he talked a lot of shit, and he got knocked the fuck out for it. So it can work. I mean, there's people. I mean, the Diaz brothers, they've talked trash and got into people's head, and they fought stupid and won. So, and it can make you money, or maybe it doesn't really make you money. I mean, it's worked for Tito, and you see other guys doing it poorly and merely not making a dent. You're either good at it or you're not. You could try it, And what's funny, I remember when I interviewed Dean Thomas a couple of months ago, he actually was going to start like a trash talking and kind of like verbalization for fighters seminars with because he does improv, and like another improv actor he's friendly with. They did one where they brought in fighters and just helped them learn to talk better and communicate better. And if it leads them to be able to trash talk, whatever. But, because there's some that try it and they just suck at it. Tito was one of the first, so people remember him for it. But in all honesty, he sucks at it. So the infamous, the crumbled paper before the crumbled juice box.
That was awful.
He probably thought about that for weeks. And like, this is gonna be awesome. And then in reality, he was like, what the hell is happening? So, if you're good at it, it'll work out for you. If you're not, you probably gonna not make that much money, look like an asshole, and just get your ass beat anyway. So
yeah, man, I forgot all about that juice box thing. And
I guess sense. Chael was juicing, is gonna crush him, but Tito really doesn't have charisma. He has it factor because people like him for some reason, but he doesn't have charisma. He doesn't have a natural charisma. He comes off as like that jock that thinks he's so cool and funny, and people only laugh because they're like scared of him, but he's really not that funny.
So my interaction with him at the press conference was the first time I've actually spoken to him, and it was strange. Like I get what you're saying, but he does have some sort of charisma, but it's not the traditional like say Aljamain Sterling, who's just like a real charismatic, chill guy. And
Adesanya.
Or Adesanya, another good example. Just guys who you can interact with very easily, and they just kind of can walk in a room and everybody's comfortable with them and kind of attracted to their personalities. Tito's not that. Tito is almost so far on the opposite end that he's come back around, and it's funny. It's funny. It's endearing in some strange way, but it works for him. It clearly works for him. I mean, hey, that whole and Chuck Liddell was making fun of this, talking to me about the wine and the cheese, and when he's talking about crushing the grapes that sound like violins, that whole very strange soliloquy that he went on several weeks ago.
Yeah,
things like that are funny. I mean, it's not. I don't think he's intending to be, but it is funny. It is funny, and it's very entertaining, and it's led to a lot of money in his pocket. So, hey, I can't knock it. Tito's bank account is better than mine. So I ain't mad at you, bro. I ain't mad at you at all. So, all right. So let's see what else we got. I know one question here that we were asked by Jack on Fire. I don't see it on my list in front of me, but Jack on Fire asked us a very, very, very good question that is always relevant. He asked, when is Crave going to cut the check?
Oh, God, don't get your hopes up, Jack.
Oh, man, don't get your hopes up, Jack. Crave cut the check Cut the damn check. Wow, can I? I mean, do I have to do this every week? Are they gonna cut this check or not? So I'm still. This is the same microphone that I borrowed from my boy.
He doesn't want that back.
I thought he was gonna come over for dinner last night, but he went somewhere else instead. So I thought he was gonna take the mic, and I was gonna be on this thing, and it was gonna ruin the trenches. But hey, Crave, the easy solution: cut the check.
Yep.
Cut the check. Like what's up? Like cut the check. Y'all want this 232 coverage? You might want to cut the check, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but hey, what? I'm sorry. I mean, Mr. Crave needs to knock that shit off. Wake up, Mr. Crave. You're missing out. You're missing out big time. Okay, so there's my rant to Mr. Crave and the good folks at the company that are not doing what they need to do in supporting Sherdog.com. So there's that. All right, so let's see here. Glove asks, what are your views regarding an open weight Grand Prix or simply a Grand Prix catering to a selected weight division in the UFC? Would it be feasible? And if so, would this also gain more attraction, which is sorely needed? Quick answer, yes. I'm for it. The open weight thing. We gotta toss the open weight thing aside.
Yeah, that can happen. Hell no.
Yeah, not in the modern age of commissions, especially when you and I are constantly harping on bad refs and poor corner stoppages or lack thereof corner stoppages and whatnot about fighter safety. Open weight tournaments are the most damaging thing you could ever do outside of just handing them baseball bats.
Yep.
That's just not a good look. But as far as attracting some attention to a division, why the hell not?
Yeah.
This was actually what was initially started to get some momentum behind the flyweight division. To have this 4-man Grand Prix, and you had Demetrius Johnson emerge as a champion. In the meantime, you had him and Ian McCall put on a great fight to start with. Joseph Benavidez, I believe, had a knockout in his first one. So you had some good results, and it gave a little gravitas to when DJ fought Benavidez for the inaugural flyweight title. So you can have these sort of things. I mean, Tough is essentially a reality show centered around a Grand Prix. So this is not something that
it's not a Grand Prix. It's more like a pre.
Ain't nothing grand about Tough. Ain't nothing grand about Tough. Tough needs to just die. Just knock that shit all the way the fuck off. Like we're so tired of Tough. Like it's trash. But it's the basic idea. The tournament format is very exciting. It's very exciting, and it can add life to divisions that otherwise may not have it. Yep. Why not have some sort of tournament to set things right? It's in some of these weight classes that don't have clear contenders. Why not? I mean, you don't want people watching. I don't know. Like the tournament format breeds its own narrative, and you don't have to rely on the angry guy or the made up feud. You don't have to rely on those same tropes that day in, day out get promoted. So why not? Grand Prix all day.
Yeah. I mean, when we look back on 2018 Bellator, what are we going to talk about? Heavyweight Grand Prix. It's been phenomenal. It's been fun. It takes out bullshit matchmaking. You set up the Grand Prix and let the fighters do it themselves. I mean, it's part of what made, PFL season pretty interesting too. And what's great about what Bellator did and 2019 is kind of probably be about the welterweight Grand Prix, which is even better because he's even better talent that are relevant right now. You either like the heavyweight Grand Prix, which is defining and finding a new championship, or the welterweight Grand Prix, which has the champion in it. So you're not even going to have to worry about, okay, let's see who's worthy. No, the champion's in it. He's going to defend it, or the next guy's going to win it, and then he's going to defend it all the way to the end. So the UFC doing that would be phenomenal because we all know they have the best talent for the most part. While, Bellator's welterweight division is close to pretty good, almost as good. The UFC light, imagine a UFC lightweight Grand Prix. Oh my God. Or featherweight Grand Prix, the deepness of the talent, and you put the champion in it. Who wouldn't love that? And then you might get the matchups you want. You might get surprise stars. That's what's fascinating about the welterweight. Maybe Neiman Gracie or Ed Ruth prove that they're the next level. Maybe they get to the semis and beat a Rory McDonald or John Fitch. It's fascinating. So if the UFC did it, woof, it'd be big. It'd be great.
Yeah, I'm wholeheartedly with you on that. And I think one good thing that you mentioned is very relevant to have the champion defending his title within that tournament format. And it eliminates a problem that Bellator under Bjorn Rebney had, which is where you put the champion in non-title fights. And that just threatens the legitimacy of the division. So I believe they faced this, correct me if I'm wrong, but Christian Mpoumpe, didn't he lose a non-title fight and he was still champion?
Maybe. I early Bellator, I did not watch that much. So I would have to go to the scrolls on that one.
Yeah, so I think it was Christian Mpoumpe, or perhaps he's the one who beat the champion in the non-title fight, and it just sends things into chaos. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. I know we don't have very fond memories, a lot of people, of Daniel Cormier beating Anderson Silva at UFC 200, but one of the first things that I believe I said this on Sherdog Radio when that matchup was made official. It's like, the fact that this isn't a title fight is really stupid, because you have the current champion who's going to be fighting in the weight class that he reigns over, and his belt isn't on the line. So when Anderson Silva landed that body kick on Cormier, I believe it was in the second round, and Cormier was obviously hurt, and he had to scramble to get that takedown. That pause moment. You hold your breath, like, oh man, this division is about to be sent on a major loop. How disastrous would it be for the current champion to lose in a non-title fight in that same weight class? So take that problem out of the equation while adding a level of seriousness to a Grand Prix by keeping that title active. And that way, if the champion makes it all the way through, in a short span of time, he's proven his dominance, and he is just by default become one of the more dominant champions in the sport. That's not bad for promotion. You have someone new emerge. That's not bad for promotion. That's it. Like, it's good for business. It's good for the fans. Make it happen. Let's see some more tournament formats in the UFC.
And it would have been perfect in the UFC lightweight division, especially with all this craziness, where Conor was away, Ferguson got stripped for no good reason, Khabib was there, Dustin Poirier was worthy, Gaethje's fun, Nate Diaz is hanging around. Imagine that you would settle it all. Once Conor came back and you got him a deal that said, okay, he would continue on for this money. Imagine a Grand Prix with Conor, Poirier, Diaz, Gaethje, Ferguson, Khabib. And then you get a couple of more guys that maybe aren't get as much shine, but maybe they make surprise. Oh my God. And you make it just a card of all the first round matchups. Oh my Lord. I'm giving you the money. I'm giving you the money on that.
And and even if you don't put them all on the same card, if you have them spread out over, a couple months or so on different cards, it adds some stakes to these random fight nights.
Yep.
We have fight nights every week, it seems, and that lead to almost nowhere for the most part. But if you have some of those fights sprinkled in, it gives you more of a reason to watch, other than the fact that we write about this and we cover it for a living. So this is something that could be very, very beneficial to just sprucing up what could otherwise be very mundane nights in front of our laptops and televisions, trying to watch and cover this sport. So there's that. All right, so let's see here. So I guess back to the random fight nights, and we touched on this a little bit, but let's go on it again. So in the forum, it was asked, UFC Fight Night, Blades, Ngannou 2 in China. First, who you got? Ngannou or Blades, Overeem or Pavlich? And second, are you going to stay up to watch it live?
No, I'm not going to be watching that live. And it's an unfortunate thing too, that it's on Fight Pass. So it's not, I would totally DVR and watch it, or maybe be tape delay, I guess, if it was on FS1, but nah, I'm not going to, I don't have Fight Pass or whatever. So it's just, in terms of the fights, I don't know too much about Pavlich, other than that I think he was a heavyweight champ for M1. but you would think Overeem, but Overeem is always one good shot away from getting rocked. So you just never know with him. He's been training, oddly enough, with Curtis Blades and Josh Copeland, who are interviewed, who's in the PFL heavyweight finals up in Colorado for this fight. So maybe he's getting pushed another level, and so. For the hell of it, I'll say Pavlovich. I'll say he surprises or whatever. I'll pick him. But Blades and Ngannou's fascinating. I interviewed Blades in September about this fight. And Ngannou's in a weird place. What's his headspace right now? Coming off these two weird performances, especially the second was the weirdest of the two against Derek Lewis. He's lost 2 in a row. Blades is on fire. His only loss in the UFC was to Ngannou. And he lost to Scary Ngannou mostly because he had a cut and they stopped the fight from it. Blades is great. He's really good. Even Dan Cormier recently said he might get, he's worthy of possibly get a title shot with a win. I'm going to pick Blades. I think he's going to be smart. He's going to wrestle him. He's going to start gassing Ngannou similar to Stipe, and it's going to be a similar game plan like that. And I think he'll win, and a big win, and a fight that I think should earn him a title shot.
Yeah, I'm gonna with you on. I'll second that on Blades. Curtis Blades, I think, should get the win. He is noticeably improved a lot more than Ngannou has since they last fought. Ngannou had the more entertaining run. Him knocking Overeem in the next year. Him just taking people's heads off with that lead uppercut. So that was good, very good stuff. But Curtis Blades from fight to fight has gotten better. Even I can't remember who it was that he was fighting, and it wasn't the most aesthetically pleasing of performances, but he got the win, and it was
Mark Hunt.
No, not Mark Hunt, not Mark Hunt. Forgive me. Maybe Jay is
Overeem too. I think Overeem and Mark Hunt back to back. Maybe Overeem.
No, because he finished. So he finished the Overeem fight. Jay, I'm sure right now is looking at the records. He's probably going to throw me the name that I'm thinking of. But it was a fight that he performed well in. It just wasn't exciting to watch. He kept the fight in the range that he needed, and that was that. And he showed some improved stand up, although he wasn't good enough at it to finish the fight with the stand up. But Curtis Blades is the guy. He's the guy who's okay. He's I knew Jay was on it. Olenek was the fight. Right. So that was
3 really good wins, man. Unbelievable.
Yeah, and he did what he had to do in that. And I think that's something that we haven't seen from Ngannou. Yeah. What we've seen from Ngannou is either he kills you or he loses.
Yeah.
Yep. And that's sort of, at the risk of calling him this prematurely, but that's sort of like a front runner sort of record that he has. If he didn't come out and just blast somebody from jump, he's been in the loss column each time.
Yep.
So I'm not quite sure what we're going to get, but I don't see that as one of those things that really improves necessarily, especially against a guy as dangerous and now as versatile as Curtis Blades. As far as Overeem and what's the guy's name? You get that pronunciation? Pavlovich. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, Overeem's chin is so compromised at this point, but he is smart enough to get wins. Maybe he'll be smart enough this time. Typically, the thing that Overeem is kind of in this weird holding pattern. He is definitely good enough to be top 5 in the heavyweight division and has been for a very long time, but he can't seem to break out of that 5 spot.
Yeah.
Maybe he'll get as high as 3, but he's coming back down to 5. Like, it just seems to be a pattern with him in the UFC. So I don't see that changing necessarily. I don't think this is going to propel him to earn himself a title shot. And Pavlovich is also undefeated. 9 first-round knockouts. But Overeem going to Overeem.
No, he's going to get knocked out.
I mean, here's the thing with Overeem, as far as dodging the first-round knockout, he's so good defensively now in this iteration of him, he probably can avoid that.
Yeah, maybe.
He probably will be able to avoid that. Even in the Ngannou fight, he got knocked out because he started to engage. He started getting too comfortable, and then he wanted to engage.
Yeah.
If he plays defensively and he shoots takedowns when he needs, or he uses long range attacks, maybe he could squeak out a decision here. I think he has the veteran savvy to do it. So I'll go Overeem. Don't want to put any money down on it though. Yeah. No, thank you. I'm keeping my money in my pocket. All right. So, well, I know we're close to when we probably should be wrapping it up, but let's get one or two more, and then we'll call it. So this question has been sitting around for quite some time, and we purposely saved it for right before this fight. So, will Chuck Liddell defeat Tito Ortiz again? If not, why?
He should. I mean, we talked about this in text a couple, maybe last week, that we both figured, or maybe we were talking on here, that Tito should win this fight. I mean, this seems tailor-made for Tito to finally get that win. You know, he's still somewhat active. He beat Chael Sonnen, who's still pretty solid at this point. This guy Chuck has not fought in 8 years, and before he retired, he was looking really bad. He's older than Tito. He's slower than Tito. If Tito does not win his fight, Tito needs to retire too and just go the hell away, because I'd be really surprised. If he can win, it'll probably be the same stuff. He gives Tito an onslaught of punches, and Tito, you know, has flashbacks to the late 90s and stuff like that. And he is, you know, what's it called when you've been in war and you have those flashbacks?
PTSD.
Yeah, like he has a PTSD shell shock moment. And like, oh god, no, you know, he just wilts and stuff like that. Otherwise, Tito should win this fight, right? No, yes.
Yeah, I agree. I think he should win. Here's this thing that I find the strangest about it. Tito Ortiz should win this fight. He's been far more active. I mean, he was just fighting last year.
Yeah,
and took out Chael Sonnen in 2 minutes or something like that. So he's a guy who still can do it. You know, maybe not at the absolute highest of levels, but high enough to defeat guys of his age group. So there's that. There's also the fact that Chuck Liddell, finished his career on 3 really, really scary knockouts.
Yeah,
3 knockouts that I mean, frightening to watch. Especially that last one on against Rich Franklin. But the thing that I find the most interesting about this is that mentally they're both in the same places that they were years ago.
Yeah.
Like Tito is still very angry and bothered by the presence of Chuck Liddell, and it's got him wound up, and he's talking about the violence and cheese, and he's like he is just a ball of anxiety, it looks like. Chuck Liddell is still calm and cool and relaxed, and it just seems like he's having fun with it. They're in the same places mentally. Yeah. And he even said he said this to me, I think, or was he might have been speaking to somebody else, but I heard him say, he looking Tito in the eyes, he sees the exact same person he did then, and somebody he knows he can beat. However, the physical aspects you can't deny. The physical aspects don't mentally just go away.
Yeah.
The physical aspects are still very much there. And I think for that reason, and that reason alone, I think Tito Ortiz should win. I see him being able to get a good takedown on him early on and finishing it with ground and pound within about 3 minutes. I'd be very surprised if this fight made it to the second round. And I'd be even more surprised if Chuck Liddell managed to get the win. Despite, I mean, he believes he will. He wholeheartedly believes he will. He wholeheartedly believes he still has it. His corner seems to be, very high on what he has. But if those open workout videos are any indication, time catches up to us all. And as great as Chuck Liddell was in his heyday, his heyday is long past, and it's an unfortunate reality. So I would, part of me wants to see him win just to see if there are other, old man matchups that would be fun to watch.
Yeah.
Would like to see him against Fedor or maybe Chael, and Chael is talking hard about both of them right now. So I am under the firm belief that there's a Bellator contract that's sitting on the shelf right now, waiting for the winner of this fight to sign. Tito says he's done. He told me, he reiterated it to me several times that he is done. Of course, he said that before.
Exactly.
Chuck Liddell, on the other hand, he wants to keep fighting. So he's targeting Rampage if he beats Tito. I know that's one he wants to get back. So we'll see what happens. But the smart money, if you put down any money, it's got to be on Tito. And I think, let me double check this on our poll. But I believe that, yeah, the poll is a clean sweep for Tito Ortiz. 100% of the votes going to Tito Ortiz to win tomorrow night. So there's that. All right, now let's see if we got any other questions that are pressing for right now or ones that might be able to wait. I think these are all ones that might be able to wait. I would normally say that I'm going to write the Ask Ant column, but hey, I don't feel like it. I'm going to go see Creed 2. I'm going to have a couple drinks. I'm going to enjoy some time with my wife. We're going to have a good time. And I'm not going to write anything.
You deserve not to. Don't do it at all.
Thank you. Thank you, Jason. You're a kind gentleman. I'm taking the night off because we will be watching a lot of fights. Oh, yeah. And then we forgot, at least I forgot to answer about whether I'll be watching the UFC in Beijing live. Nope. If I do, it's strictly by accident.
Yes.
Strictly by accident. And actually, if I'm up at that time, I'm probably playing Metal Gear Solid.
There you go.
Yeah. So we'll end it with one seasonal question. So let me make sure that I am going to say this right. Another listener, watcher, viewer, consumer of the product, member of the Trenches family, Yohimbo asks, what are you most thankful for about MMA this year?
You go first. I got to think about it.
All right, just when I was all prepared. I put the camera on you and everything, and you pass it back to me. Well, you messing up my transition game. All right, so, all right, what I'm most thankful for in MMA this year, just on a personal note, I'm thankful to be involved in the sport. I love the sport. Obviously, I wouldn't be doing this and waiting for Crave to cut the check while I do it. But I do love the sport. I love being able to cover it. I love the fact that, interacting with a lot of really good people that are just as passionate about this as I am. So I'm thankful for you, Jason. I'm thankful for our producer, Jay, who's on the boards right now, keeping us well informed and fact checking all my foolishness. I'm thankful for our editor-in-chief, Mike Fridley, throwing some opportunities our way. I'm thankful for the friends that I've made in what has been a very, very eventful year for me and my career as a mixed martial arts journalist. So I don't want to run down all the names. I'm going to feel like I'm going to forget somebody, but you know who you are. My friends that I've made in the sport, the fighters that I've interacted with, that whether they realize it or not have enriched my experience and my love of this sport even more. So thankful to all of you. Thankful to all of you listening, all of you reading, everything that I've written. Appreciate you, and please keep it up.
I second that. I'm thankful for the opportunity Sherdog has afforded me and to get to do the show with you. And, of course, Jay, appreciate it. Even though you don't interact with me, you interact with Anthony. But fine, I appreciate it. Yeah, just being a part of the Sherdog team is awesome. I'm thankful for the athletes and the trainers and the people that's a part of the sport. Very cool, very helpful. Some of the folks at PFL and shout out to Dan Kitchen at Bellator, very helpful in getting interviews. Greg Savage at PFL, Sissy Long at One for helping out with interviews, and the fighters. The fighters, because me and Anthony talked about, there was a fighter this week that was a real asshole. I ain't gonna say names, but not every fighter is nice. To the fighters that are nice, I appreciate it. There's more of you than there's not. Very thankful to you, and yeah, it's been a fun year, and I've really enjoyed it. I look forward to next year, and also just thankful to Dan Cormier as a fan. Stipe Miocic win. Follow Derek Lewis, the fight beating Derek Lewis, Madison Square Garden, up close. We had our moment. I got the picture. Thank you, Dan Cormier. Nice guy.
Yeah, and while we're at it, let's thank Yair Rodriguez and Korean Zombie for the fight of the year and the knockout of the year. And I still want to send out a solid middle finger to everybody that Korean Zombie was talking to, saying people that wanted to see him fail. Fuck all of you. Korean Zombie is an international treasure, you jackasses. Oh, you know what? We can't let this one skip by. One thing I am not thankful for, I'm not thankful for you goofball ass fans out there that got dumb shit to say about what happened to Rachel Ostovich. All of you absolute just buffoons out there who have nothing but negativity to spread. Show some sympathy. Show that you're a fucking human being. You're not a piece of shit. That's not even worth me stepping on. Clowns. Like, I saw something that just infuriated me. It was one of the least intelligent hot takes known to man that was saying that it wasn't a big deal because she's a fighter, and if she was a fighter, she could defend herself. What type of fucking nonsense is that? Trash. If that's your thoughts on domestic violence, you need to just go ahead and just jump off a bridge, motherfucker. Please. Jump off that bridge. All right. And don't even think about it. Just jump on. It's enough that this sport has the negativity associated with it. The labels like human cockfighting, years ago, but there are a lot of people that still look at us through those lenses and don't see the beauty in what goes on, and the discipline and the heart and the technique and the things that we love about this sport as decent human beings. Don't be one of those fucking clowns that has some negative bullshit to say about this. Man, if it was your mom or your sister or your wife or your girlfriend getting beat up like that, you wouldn't have all that smart shit to say. And not to say that a woman's worth should be based on her relationships to a man. But maybe that's the only way you motherfuckers can understand it. Maybe that's the only way that your little pea brains can compute this. Be a good person. Be a good human being. Don't be a dick. Just jump off a bridge, man. Just anybody out with those hot takes, don't at me. Stay off my mentions. Stay off my timeline. Stay off everything. Just fucking die. That's it. So,
and that's our show for this week.
Yep. So, anyway, so Jason, please tell the good folks what you got coming up, where they can find you. What's up with Mr. Burgos?
As always, Cheap Seats Chat on Instagram and on Twitter. This week, got to speak with 3 fighters from Bellator, Chidi and Jukawani, who was the main event of the show on the 30th. Got to speak to Joe Warren, which was a great last minute kind of the conversation. Awesome, super fun to talk to. That dude has a nuts career. If you go look at his resume on Sherdog.com, his first fight's insane. And Goichi Yamauchi, who's one of the better lightweight fighters in Bellator. Those are stories I do have to write soon. I have to do some work in the next couple of days. But they will be for next week and for that card next week. And that's about it. And follow me on Twitter and Instagram.
So what I have coming up, there'll be a good, bad, and the ugly this weekend. So based on how the events break down, not sure exactly what format they'll take. If I have time to watch all of the one card, I only saw the main and the co-main. Maybe I'll throw something in there about that. But as of now, it's going to be Chuck Tito based and UFC Beijing. So we'll see how that's going to break down. But there will be a good, bad, and the ugly for your reading pleasure in the next couple of days. Also, Ask Ant ain't happening because I don't feel like it this week. We'll be back next week for that. And I think that's it. Oh, I got an interview coming up with Will Morris, who's going to take on Joe Schilling in next Friday's Bellator. So be on the lookout for that. We're going to do that interview sometime next week, and I'll have a write-up probably the next day or so for that. And you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Ant Walker MMA. So all you buffoons, don't at me. I already told you, don't at me. So that's that. Appreciate your time. Appreciate you checking out the trenches. For Jason Burgos, I'm Anthony Walker on Sherdog.com. Stay sexy.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, that's why I say that first. Yeah. So happy holidays to everybody out there. Enjoy your time with your families. Keep on BSing at your desk because nobody actually does any work between now and New Year. So enjoy the time off that isn't really time off. Until then, stay sexy. Peace.